So when it comes to the things of the Lord really, He's showing me personally in my personal life that He really cares a lot about character. You know, our character sustains us in hard times. If you really think about it, when you're going through hard times, there's a right way to approach it and a wrong way to approach it. The wrong way to approach it is kind of like the Israelites when they came and God was promising them a new land. When they were going on the land, they started complaining, murmuring, because the situation and the circumstances weren't ideal. They started thinking about the things that they used to have, the old ways, the old times, and they're like, you know what, we didn't suffer this much. You know, we weren't going, we had food to eat, we had water to drink what's it called, in Egypt, and when they were slaves to Pharaoh, and now God is setting them free, but in order to get to the promised land, they had to go through the journey of the wilderness, and that's never fun. And so on the way of the journey, you know, there's a lot of walking. Okay, that alone is not fun, right? So you have to walk a lot out in the sun, go through different types of testing and different types of opposition. You know, both with the things like snakes or something like that, or animals, or wilderness, or just spiritual warfare, or hunger or thirst, or etc. Right? But the point here is that their character was being tested in it all, right? And what I know about God is that He loves a patient endurance within His people. And so when you're going through whatever you're going through, there's always a reason behind it. There's always a purpose behind it. When you're within this is the difference, okay? Everybody on planet Earth suffers, but the people that are not with God, they suffer in a different way. There's no profit to them. So in other words, when they suffer, they're suffering for just reasons. It's because they're storing up abominable things, that they're storing up the wrath of God, and they're gaining, they're just reaping what they're sowing, in other words, you know. So the unbeliever, the people that just live for this world, they go through their own trials and testing and problems and this and that, but in the end of the day, they're not expecting a reward. They're not expecting anything in return, except, you know, they have a guilty conscience, they carry shame, and inside of their hearts they know that they're gonna be condemned if they continue in this lifestyle. That's just a fact, because you can't live like the devil and then reap heaven in the end. Just, that's not the truth. And so the devil plays a lot of games, and he wants to lie to people and deceive people. And you see these music videos, and you see all kinds of different propaganda out there that a gangster, you know, they lives his life recklessly his whole life, and then he dies, and they make these little short clip videos of him being in heaven in the clouds, and he lived like the devil. He's not gonna get a reward like heaven for it. It's just no. Okay? So that's why the Bible calls it stupid to be wicked, because there's nothing in it for you. When you're wicked, you suffer on earth for doing evil, and then there's condemnation that comes afterwards of eternity in hell. So there's nothing in it for the person, except that the devil tries to make it nice and comfortable for them on earth with the things of the earth to try to keep them there. So you probably give them money, you probably give them sex, you know, with this or that, keeps them entertained. But all the while, on the inside, like, they just don't feel content, they don't feel satisfied, they don't feel fulfilled, they're empty, and they just know it. On the inside, where it counts, on the inside, they're always looking at that void, saying, man, it's not doing it for me, man. I don't get it, I don't understand. I have it all. I have it all. I have the mansions, the cars, the girls, the money, and yet on the inside, I'm looking around and I'm just thinking to myself like, it's all meaningless. You know, it doesn't. It's vanity. So if they were truly serious with you and honest, brutally honest, they would say that. They would tell you square in the eye like, yeah, it's not. Happiness is not here, right? But it keeps you busy. It keeps you entertained. That I will say. Keeps you busy and entertained. Distraction, at best. So long story short, God, you know, He's always working. He's always working. The Bible says He doesn't sleep and He doesn't slumber. So He's always working, and one thing that God's always working on is your character. You know, one of the things that God was working on me, even as an unbeliever, even as a person that was living recklessly, you know, I bashed my head against the wall enough, sinning enough, to learn that there's got to be a better way to life's approach than this. Because this is a dead end. You circle around the building long enough, you get to know the building. And then you circle around it enough times after that, and you start to become bored. That's how it is with sin. The faces change. The scenery is the same, right? And you go to these different places that you look for fulfillment, satisfaction, and you get entertained and you get distracted and you leave with a void, the same void you walked in with, you leave with it again. And like a dog chasing its tail, around and around we go. That's how they occupy their time. That was me. But along with that comes like I mentioned, emptiness. And also there's this like voice in the back of your head that tells you, man, like you're better than this. There's more value to you than this. And that starts pecking away at you as you proceed in this life of sin. And usually, you know, that grows and grows and grows in the person's life to the point where they find themselves going to church and settling down, at least. At the very least, settling down, finding a person that they can settle down with and trying to make a lifestyle out of it. Now, all that's good in terms of turning away from sin and evil and finding a person that you're not going from well to well. You find one well and you stick with that one well and you drink. So God's got a plan. He's got a blueprint for everybody's life, and in that blueprint is your satisfaction. That's where you are going to be fulfilled. When you try to draw your own blueprint, your own plan for your own life, you'll find yourself uneasy, uncomfortable, where you can have some certain things that the world deems as successful, but what good is it if in the end of the day you can't look at yourself in the mirror and really be satisfied with who you see? If that's going on inside of you and you have all the stuff, then it's lopsided. It's like, no, you rather have that inner feeling, love that you have for yourself, saying, man, I love my life, and have the things of material and say, man, I'm not happy with you. You know, when you look at yourself in the mirror. So some things to work out there, right? Because if you can't live with you in your own skin, what does it matter to have everything outside, right? It's not gonna allow you to really enjoy it if you're not right with yourself. And that's what happens when you're not in God's plan. You don't feel right within your own self. You feel out like a fish out of water. And it's not going to change until you decide to tap out and say, okay, God, not my will, but your will be done. Now, for some people, that takes years and years and years and years and years, you know? And other people, they catch on early and they say, you know what, I don't feel right, so I'm going to try it your way, God. And where I found myself recently was going through, the best way I could describe it is like a furnace or a fire. And just being there. And as I'm in that furnace or fire, God is like burning out impurities, working on character. It's uncomfortable, as an example. It's very uncomfortable, and you feel it. You feel things shifting, changing, being pulled out. You know, it's almost like a pruning is going on, and that's not comfortable, right? That's not like, it's not a good feeling. So, and through it all, you know, character is what God cares about, right? Because once He puts you on the altar, once He puts you on that floor where you're preaching to His sheep and you're doing His work out in the world stage, He wants your character to be spot on, you know, so that you can be an accurate, effective representation of the gospel, right? And also so that you can be sustained within the warfare that is going to be coming your way. As soon as you're effective and you're making a difference for God, you got a target on your back. Satan wants to have your lunch, so to speak, and he's coming after you. But the whole pruning and the whole furnace and the oven that I was mentioning prepares you for that, so that you can be solid, not easily taken down. You can stand on your own 2 feet and withstand a storm, because you've been through a process in order to get there. Now you're in a process and I'm in a process, and we're in different levels, different stages, different places. But the goal is always the same, and the goal is for you to look like Jesus Christ, and for you to have the image, right, the character of Jesus Christ. And part of that character is that when Jesus Christ suffered, He never complained about it. Like, for example, when they were whipping His back, He didn't even grunt. The Bible says that He was quiet and silent. So these whips, you could hear them across the room. You can hear they echoed, and they were so loud because it was so hard. And imagine, not even the slightest of nothing. It was just. But again, Jesus is an example to us. He's showing us, like, you're going to suffer in this world, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And so He's like, when you go through affliction and hard times, rejoice, because your character is being built, and it's being built on rock and not on sand. See, the Bible talks about rock being a sure foundation and sand being a place where as soon as opposition comes, you collapse. And so, you know, if you're going to build a house, let's build it the right way. And that's why you go through so many hard things. It's because God is building you strong. And, you know, if you remain without, you know, trying to wiggle out and trying to avoid the process, God will perfect you, and you will be perfected in every way. And when you are perfected before the world, people, you will be such a representation of Christ that people will have something to follow. A clear example of God in you to follow. And that's what God is after. So many people are looking for an example to follow. It's like, yeah, don't tell me, show me. And I understand that. understand that showing it matters more than telling me. And that's why we go through the process. So we can be clear representatives of the gospel. And so Jesus Christ is doing that in your life and in my life. And in the end, I believe that in the end, when we arrive, you're gonna say it was worth it. It was hard, it was difficult, it was uncomfortable, I hated it. But if this is what it produced, then it was worth it. And stick to the process and trust God and have faith and believe He's for you and He's not against you. So don't be against Him. Don't turn your back on Him and walk away because it's too difficult, too hard, or this or that. A true Christian, a true Christian doesn't even have walking away from God as an option. It's not even an option. So God is your refuge, He's your safety, He's your protection, He's the lover of your soul. He chastises those He loves. He corrects those He loves. And God is a hard God. Not too many people talk about that, but God is a hard God. What I mean by that is that He's not scared of a challenge. He's not scared to put you through a challenge. So He chooses the hard things. He doesn't choose shortcuts or easy things. Right? And that's why the saying goes, if you're ever in doubt of what you're supposed to do, choose the hard thing. And that's God's way. Okay? The easy way, path in life never produces longevity of a blessing. It might produce the blessing, but it comes and it goes. But something that you worked hard for, yeah, it was difficult, it was hard, right? People didn't understand why you were doing it the right way, but when their blessing ran out, your blessing kept going. And that's the truth. That's the truth behind the why, behind the what. When you do things appropriate and accurate, it can last a lifetime. All you have to do is one time right. Whereas the sinner does it wrong because he wants to half-fast it. Wants a 30-second job. Like, let me do this real quick. Okay, there, I patched it up. But it breaks again. Within days or hours, maybe, it breaks. The person that takes their time, measures, gets the appropriate pieces, takes their time, does it right. Yeah, took a longer, but that thing won't break again because they put support systems behind it. They put all kinds of different measures for it to stick and stay and be presented as strong. Likewise, God says, be a living sacrifice to me. God says, I called you to be a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing unto the Lord. It's hard. It's tough. It's going to take time to build and to produce this, following the Lord, However, in the end, you'll be built to last. You won't break under pressure. You're not like a sinner in the world that doesn't know a thing about suffering, as an example. It's like they cry because, I broke a nail. and like this and that. The system and the program that God puts us through makes you tough and strong. Under any temperature, under any weather, under any circumstance, under any situation, you're capable. Apostle Paul said, I learned to be content with much and with little. I know what it's like to have more than enough, and I know what it's like to be hungry, he said. He said, and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So the moral of the story is to trust in God, that He is at work, that it is hard. It is. Okay, so what? The right perception is what the Bible says. Let patience have its perfect work in you. Because when it is done, it's gonna breed endurance and perseverance. And it's gonna just work itself into the love in your heart to go forth and do everything from a place of love, because patience and all that, perseverance and this and that, you start to adopt a care and a sensitivity and a gentleness that you approach life from a different avenue. It's not with a rush. It's not impatience. It's not like, oh, let me get this done with. You mean I have to do that? No, it's I get to do that. And so notice the attitude that the disciples had. They're like rejoicing when they first got whipped, when they first got, suffered for the Lord and went to jail. They were just like rejoicing. They said, I counted joy that I get to suffer for the Lord, because the Lord suffered for me, and now He counted me worthy that I might be able to partake in what He called me in for. And when Apostle Paul, the persecutor of the church, when he was persecuting everybody, and he had encounter with the Lord on Damascus, and when he got saved and baptized, God said these words to him. He said, I will show you how much you will suffer for me in my gospel. However, we regard that as a negative thing, but it's not, because Apostle Paul wrote most of the New Testament. And the point there is that he was storing a lot of treasure in heaven. He was taken up to heaven at one point and had a vision. And he expressed that it was so beautiful and so great and so grand that words couldn't compare, and he wasn't even going to bother trying to explain what he saw, because it was just so marvelous. So yeah, that's the video that I wanted to mention. And I just wanted to say that the Lord is on your side, and that He'll never leave you nor forsake you, and have faith and persevere and have patience. Do things with the right heart. Do things with the right heart, because the Lord looks at the heart. So it's not just about doing the thing. It's about having patience. And that's the end of the video, guys. Love you. God bless you.